This is Calvin from Landon, and you're tuned in to Out Cincinnati, streaming live on radioartifact.com.
You're listening to Out Cincinnati on 91.7 WVXU HD2 Radio Artifact and OutCincinnati.com. Dan Smith is founder and CEO of Haunted Cincinnati Tours, author of Ghosts in Cincinnati, Dark Side of the Queen City, and one of my favorites, Ghost of Bobby Mackey's Music World. Thank you so much, Dan, for being on Out Cincinnati.
Hey, thank you. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, you too. It is getting close. Have you picked out your costume, or what do you do?
You know, for years I talked about putting together the custom Ghostbusters outfit, and this year I'm actually doing it. So it's been a lot of fun, actually.
Oh my God, what is that? What does that mean? Like just one of their,
like literally building piece by piece a recreation of the Ghostbusters uniform from the movie.
So what's been the hardest piece to replicate, or are people really kind of pains in the butts when they say, "Oh, that's not perfect"?
I'm not that much of a stickler, but some of them are, and it's this yellow leg tube. It has to be yellow. It can't be clear. Yeah, I don't care that much.
Yellow leg. I'm gonna have to Google that yellow leg tube from the Ghostbusters. So does it function in the manner of, like when you see it aim at the ghost in the film? Does your gun fire?
Yeah, I mean, well, it flashes and it makes noise. That's all you need, right?
Oh no, I mean I'm picturing like that. It looks like a lightning bolt in the film. I just wonder what it looks like in person. You'll have to get a video for social media or something of it firing. Anyways, so you grew up in I guess it's okay to reveal your costume ahead of time. So that's awesome. But yeah, you grew up in a haunted house. What was that like, and where was that?
I grew up in Metro Detroit, and it started with a couple of strange things. I was an only child, and I started getting lectures about turn off the water when you leave the kitchen, turn off the lights when you leave the bathroom, energy's not free. And I kept telling my parents, this is not me. And then it was kind of like the cliche, sure, who was it, a ghost? As time progressed, more strange things happened. We would drive out in the car down the road, and you would see these street lamps on the streets would burn for the car, not just cycle off. They'd be burned out when you came past them again. So then around the house, it kind of culminated where one night we had a really loud pounding, shaking the house sort of vibration going through the house. The lights flickered. Think of a horror movie, and that's what we lived through. And the TV's changing channels, and we had this old, ugly orange recliner there that no one really sat in because you couldn't open the footrest on it. And there, in the middle of all of this thing popped open the footrest and started rocking back and forth violently. We ran out of the house. My dad cursed me out. What are you into? Are you a witch? Are you conjuring? And I didn't know. I was 15 years old. I was as scared as he was with what had happened. And that kind of set me on the path to figure out what the heck that could possibly be.
How did you explain to your dad that you weren't a ghost, that it was the house? And then how did you, where did you have to go look it up? Hey, what the hell's going on? And you show him an article or something? I
got interested in trying to figure it out, kind of died down after that, and it never happened again. That fall, a friend of mine said, hey, there's these paranormal researchers coming to our college. You want to go see them? And so I ended up seeing a lecture and meeting Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are somewhat famous for some of the Conjuring movie, the Amityville horror case. And that's how I got set in the path of, I guess, paranormal research.
Is there a degree? What degree do you have on paper, and is it related in any way to some of the things you do in your research?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well, there's no delicate way to ask.
I think there's one place in the UK that they have some parapsychology studies, but really this as a whole is just in the really early years of being taken seriously finally. So no, none of that.
Oh, okay. So what is your degree in? Just curious.
I'm a degree in business, actually.
Oh, okay. That's...
I didn't grow up planning to be a Ghostbuster. That, it just kind of happened to me.
So and that back to the costume, which I'm still kind of envisioning. So how did you get? Did you start out doing tours, or did you start out doing research, or did the two kind of get going together?
I've always loved history and trying to figure out like why things were the way they were and where things were. And when I moved to Cincinnati, I tried to find a tour to take me around. I heard there was a lot of history here, and it didn't exist. So I kind of researched on my own and was finding out all this fascinating history. And then at the same time, people were saying, yeah, but do you know this place is haunted? You know this place is haunted. And they kind of went hand in hand, and it was my two passions. So I put the two together and said, hey, I should, maybe expose other people to these real hauntings that are happening, but also to some of the true history and true stories behind why this might be occurring.
So is that when did you have to research all the places? How did you decide what you were going to add? And I mean, is it rough to just keep getting scared to have to build a tour?
I had to go out. Yeah, I mean, I went out for myself. I found all the stories that existed. I kind of went and saw them for myself and figured out which ones were probably, urban legend, and which one had some meat on the bones, that was really happening. Things were really happening and were disturbing people, and talking to employees and even customers at some places, and kind of handpick the most, really haunted locations to cover on the tours.
Without going through the whole list, what are one or two examples of spots that you hit up?
I mean, we hit up everything from, the iconic music hall area that everyone knows about to some of the little bit lesser known areas like the area of Taft Museum or Arnold's Bar and Grill. There's a lot going on just in the downtown area.
What was I was at Music Hall recently, and I can't not think of history and the different, just the footsteps that have been in there, and well, the stuff that's under there. What was in that area before? Wasn't it like a cemetery or something? Yeah,
so just across Central Parkway, which was the Miami-Erie Canal, sat this creepy old asylum. It was called the Commercial Hospital and Lunatic Asylum. Just as bad as you would think from horror movies and things.
Ouch.
Very early medical science trying to treat people who are mentally ill with, techniques we see today as torturous. But they had a problem with a lot of people who didn't have family, different reasons. Some people wouldn't claim bodies because they had diseases like cholera, and they were afraid to bring that into their home and their families. Some of them were just homeless, had no family, so they got this piece of property where Music Hall is today, over Memorial Hall as well, and started what is called a potter's field, a pauper cemetery. And these people who didn't have family or next of kin were just sort of tossed away in this sad, heaping pile of corpses. It's a terrible thing, but that was a commonplace back in the 19th century.
So are all those, makes me wonder, Music Hall, are all the ghosts there sad, or all ghosts sad, or do you find ghosts that are just, if I can use the term ghost, that are just a hoot, that you just make you scream laughing?
I've talked to a lot of people over the years, and it can be as beautiful as some employees have told me stories of hearing just this unseen singing voice, a beautiful singing voice, to as crazy as in the last year or so, we're getting several reports from not only Music Hall, but Washington Park across the street of a little girl in pigtails who's kind of dressed in dirty clothing and shows up really late at night when they think she's probably wandering the streets lost, and just as they turn to help her, she's gone. And so it's a pretty wide gamut, I guess, of what can happen down there. From audible voices to visual sightings, yeah. And
how do you determine what they're saying? I guess can you record a ghost, Dan? Like, do you need consent, or how do you? Because I think you study that a little bit, right?
I think this is what I call my area of expertise. I like to spend a lot of time on this. Electronic voice projections, or EVP, is a phenomenon that's continuing to happen worldwide. It's probably the best evidence we have that something's going on after death, and anyone can do it. I mean, anyone can walk out with the right specs and recorders and capture these voices. I don't mean like a little sound of wind or something. You can sometimes catch these amazing voices that are answering your questions. And that really kind of blows open the lid and says, what is going on here? Like, and where are they at?
So do you actually, I mean, there's probably something really fancy to record these voices with. Once you have them recorded, how do you determine, well, that they obviously said no or yes or what their answer was? Do you play it for other folks, or do you just kind of interpret it the way you heard it?
Yeah, it's not fancy. I mean, people can use their cell phones to do this. To qualify a voice, though, I mean, if you're talking about scientifically, you would want to put it in front of a group of people and have them tell you what they hear without any kind of prompting. Because, you know, on the television shows, as soon as they say it says something, you hear that and you can't unhear it, you know.
Right.
But sometimes I'm watching these shows as well, and you hear this voice, and it's like a poof of air. I don't hear a dang thing, and they're saying, "Do you hear that?" It's saying, "Make me a sandwich." I just don't hear it.
You're just getting something. You know, someone trying to get a sandwich made for them. Yeah, I swear that's what it said. So you can go in and record these projections. Like, did you do that in Bobby Mackey's at all, or have you been back there?
Yeah, it's been about over 6 years. Since I wrote the book, I haven't returned. I don't plan on ever going back. It's really the darkest chapter, not only in my life, but a lot of people have experienced this.
If you can tell, like, you can say something, well, what happens in there in general in Bobby Mackey's, or what's the word on that place?
What happens in there is something above the level of a regular haunted place. There's these, whatever you want to call them, some elemental, inhumans, some people say demons. There's something there that inherently knows things about you, and I don't know how to explain it. I mean, if you don't believe it's going to sound nuts, but it's true. They'll say things like whatever your deepest emotional scar is, basically, they'll play it against you. And these voices sometimes are audible, moving objects. I've seen people, get kicked and punched and scratched, and just a lot of really negative energy there.
Do they know specifics?
The problem is it can come home with you too. That's the problem.
Right, like if somebody, can they say stuff about you like that you haven't made public? Say something in your past. They know the actual facts.
I remember sitting in the dusty old basement one night with a group years ago. Maybe 6 of us in the whole building, and it was closed down. It was not operating, and we got about nothing for about half an hour. Then suddenly these voices started coming out of thin air on the recorders and on some other devices. And basically over a series of phrases started talking about this girl in the group by name and mentioning an abortion. And this girl started crying, and her mother was next to her. And it was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Wow. The mother asked her, "Is this true?" And then they got in a fight because the daughter never told her about the abortion. It's crazy stuff like that's happened there, that they can play your emotions against you. And it sounds nuts. I know it does. I truly appreciate how crazy that sounds, but it's real, and a lot of people have experienced that kind of stuff.
Well, it's like if 10 people point at it and say it's the dress is blue or black or what. I mean, not to simplify it, but if that's the word on the street about that place, I mean, if it's creepy, it's creepy. It's a good place to go have a drink and hear some honky tonk. We're talking to Dan Smith of Haunted Cincinnati Tours. It's hauntedcincinnatitours.com. Do you ever, and I don't know why this is what I'm thinking of last, it is on my list to ask, do ghosts ever hit on like humans, or do they have any feelings? I mean, it's not February yet.
I can't say I've ever experienced that. There is a sector of people. Now, I've never really been involved in this. I don't know too much about it, but there is a real thing called spectrophilia, where people claim to have sexual relations with spirits or marry them. I think there was one in the news recently about a woman, and I think it was Australia maybe, who said she met a ghost in a cave, and this resort was going to pay for her ghost wedding. It's weird. It really makes you wonder.
It makes you wonder how desperate people are.
I mean, I believe this is real, but is it real or is it mental illness? And I don't know where the line really is. Sometimes it's pretty thin.
I mean, if you can stay home and conjure something versus, spending half your paycheck at the bar, conjure yourself a date. So I'm gonna have to Google that, spectrophilia. Wonderful. So thank you for coming on out, Cincinnati. For folks who want to take a tour, it's hauntedcincinnatitours.com, and of course you can find you guys on Facebook, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, cool. Hey, thanks, and a happy Halloween.
Hey, same to you. Thank you.